Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 3 of Hops and Hedges, the podcast where we talk about beer, landscaping, and everything in between. I'm your host, Heather Gerard from My Landscape Artist, and I am so glad you're here. Hops and Hedges is proudly sponsored by ext.tech, and you're going to want to stick around until the end of the show for an exclusive discount code to use for their powerful CRM software and mobile app. Now crack open a cold one, and let's dig in. There we go. With me today, it's been a long time coming, and I'm excited to have him with me today, is Mr. Paul Brydges, the Principal Senior Landscape Architect at Brydges Landscape Architecture for the last 21 years. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, Heather. Thanks. Glad to be here today.
Very happy to have you on the show. I've seen you around, well, for years. I've only been in the industry for 13, and you've been a landscape architect with your company for 21 years. Right? Am I saying that right?
21 with this company and 20 years of design before that. So it's been a
Oh man, you are just a wealth of information and an inspiration to many of us in the industry, if I do say so myself. So very excited to have you on the show.
awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
So your company, for people who don't know you or Brydges Landscape Architecture out in Guelph, can you give us a lowdown as to who you are, what do you do, and why are you amazing?
I'll start with the why we're amazing. It's because we have an awesome team. I have a great team in studio with me, studio of 3. So we're a very small company, but we design for 20 contractors across the country. And we're out as far as the East Coast as well. But the reason we do so well is because our contractors take our designs, which gets them 90% of the way, and then they just take it to the next level and knock it out of the park. So we are very fortunate. We work with the best of the best, and it makes us look really good. But we do mostly residential, waterfront, rural, second properties is our specialty. And we draw by hand for everything our clients see, unless there's the odd commercial project comes in the door.
I love the hand rendering. That is something that I don't think it'll ever go away, but it's certainly a niche. Like it is, I personally love to hand render. I don't always have the privilege of the time to do it that way.
Yeah. So we just, all our drawings are typically base drawings are black and white plan view. And we can draw as fast by hand as most people can do with a computer. And clients do ask us like what program it is, because I've got my team honed to a science where it is consistent. It is, it's art, but it's readable. And
Yep.
then when clients understand that it's like a human being spent this amount of time, they think it's a tremendous amount of time doing this for me, it takes it to the next level of experience for them. They're like, wow, somebody really cares. It wasn't generated by a machine. It wasn't automated. It was like, no, people did this for me. For
Yeah.
my yard.
I love that aspect about hand rendering. It's one of the things that I've really kind of fought the CAD side of things for a long time, because I personally find CAD, like blueprints and drawings, so cold. Like there's no emotion there. And for me, I find it's a lot easier to sell a project when there's emotion and that human aspect from the very beginning. And CAD to me, it's too computerized. It's too, yeah, je sais quoi.
It's a great tool, right? It's a tool. We use CAD for some of our base drawings underneath. When we're doing measuring for accuracy, CAD is a great tool. A laser level is a great tool. A line level is a great tool. But design, you use tools in the background. You don't use tools to sell art. And really what clients are seeing and asking for, they don't understand the science behind it. They're looking for the art at the end of the game. They want their yard to look amazing. Well, computers don't make things, they don't do that. It's still the human aspect of it that makes them amazing, right? It's the inputs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how many times I've shown a like a Dynascape drawing that's super accurate and very clean, and the client looks at it and is like, I don't understand this, right? Where you hand render, you add some color by hand, and it just takes everything to the next level. I love that personalization that you can get with hand renderings. So your main office is in Guelph, and then where else are you servicing and working? You mentioned out east.
Yeah. So I've also got an office up about 20 minutes south of Owen Sound. So we do a lot of work on Grey Bruce County, Lake Huron shoreline. So we kind of run Goderich to Tobermory over to Collingwood and that wedge.
Oh,
We work up into the Muskokas, work down in Leamington, Sarnia, work in Kingston. I mean, anywhere where it's the right fit for us, that it's a fun project. I love what I do. I'm very fortunate. Get that fun every day on something. And then we have clients that took us years ago to the East Coast, and that sort of started us out there. So now we're doing more and more out on the Eastern Seaboard as well.
I love how you said, if they're a good fit for us. I think that's something that a lot of, especially small businesses, overlook is that not everyone is going to be your fit as a client,
Exactly.
right? So don't try to impress everybody. Figure out who you want to work with and the projects that are fun for you and go chase that.
Exactly. And I have a certain style, and I say to my clients, "This is me. This is what you get. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But let's figure that out early,
Yeah.
right? Because this should be a really fun process." And we're lucky. We spend clients money that is sort of extra funds for them. So if they're not having fun, having us spend their money, it doesn't
So-
make for a very congenial relationship.
yeah, absolutely. So you've been with your company now for 21 years. You were doing design 21 or 20 years before that. So
Design build.
design build. Okay. So talk to me about young Paul. Like, did you think were you always kind of artist minded or construction or like what was your dream as a kid? What were you going to grow up and be?
So I grew up in a family of engineers.
Okay.
So I am the black sheep in the family by far, but I started in engineering and planning, and that was the road I was going down. And I love to draw, but I was a draftsman in high school and helped my teacher because he got sick teach the drafting class, and just so like kind of.
Oh, wow.
But in the background, my mom would always like, if I ever wanted to draw, like, do you want more pencil crayons? Do you want more? Do you want more markers? And it was sort of I drew for fun, but never realized the two could go together because engineering is so precise. But then I went to work for an engineering firm and was really, really good friends with the owners. They took me under their wing kind of thing. And they put me in the hydrogeology department. So I learned about water. I designed subdivisions when I was 19 for them.
Wow.
And they came to me and said, "You don't belong here. You can stay here your whole career because you're fun to have in the office. We love what you do, but you don't like drawing straight lines. And engineering is all about straight lines and efficiency. A subdivision, if it's flat, it's fast to build." And like, well, why would we do that? Why don't we put a curve in the road,
Yeah.
and amplify this view? And it was like, no, no, we're not about that. So they kind of said to me, there's other options out there. And then I had a high school guidance counselor who threw the University of Guelph handbook in front of me. 'Cause I didn't go to school a lot. I spent more time at work and I had my own little company. So I wouldn't go to school. I would work on projects.
Yeah.
And this guidance counselor threw the Guelph handbook in front of me and said, "What do you think of landscape architecture?" Like, what is that? I'd never
Yeah.
heard the term in my life.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, this is me. And never turned back.
Oh, man. It's such a blessing to have come across it at in high school. Like, that
Yeah.
is right? Like, what are the chances that somebody sees you and really sees that, okay, there's this thing that you should maybe know, and we get these little tidbits along the way, whether it's a teacher or guidance counselor or a parent, and it totally changes the trajectory of everything.
Yeah. Mr. Shoot is who it was, and his daughter was in my class. But he took the time. He saw who I was, and kind of made it so I didn't get kicked out of school because I'm like, no, no, you just need to apply your energies in the right direction.
Right.
And so that was sort of unbeknownst to me, it was a lifeline. And now it's not what I do, it's who I am.
Right. It is so closely tied to self-identity, for sure. When you're entrepreneur mindset and you really love what you do, um, it's part of who you are. Absolutely. So, what else did I want to? Oh, I love this. This actually leads right into the next question, which is advice for life. And I love that you said, excuse me, love what you do. That isn't work.
Actually.
That's your advice, right?
Yep.
Find what you love and just go for it. It's funny, I keep laughing that, I often joke about the podcast that my dad, since I was very young, said, "Follow your heart and everything else will fall into place." That was something my dad always said, and I struggled a long time. Like, I really didn't get a footing until about age 26. My mom even referred to me as being flighty at one point because I jumped from job to job to job, not always my choice. I was let go or laid off or downsized a lot because I didn't fit anywhere. And when I sat down and I laughed, but this is what I laughed about the podcast is, follow my heart. Well, I like beer and landscaping. And now I'm doing a podcast about beer and landscaping. So there you go. Shout out to dad. I'm now doing what I love.
Exactly.
Too funny. I also love that the other piece of advice that you talk about is advice that you'd give to somebody who's maybe just starting their own business is to take courses and ask a lot of questions before starting. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I worked for design build companies. I had my own company when I was 14. It's like nothing glorious about it, cutting grass, raking leaves, taking snow off the neighbor's roof because we were in snow country. had no idea how to, how do you charge for that? How do you, but my buddies worked for me, I took a cut of what I paid them, kind of thing. And then I worked for design build companies and I ran some very, very large companies, big divisions in the US and big companies back in Ontario. And, I had accountants working for me. I had bookkeepers in the office, secretaries in the office, managers, foremen, all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I can do this. I know how to run a company because it was a multi-million dollar company. The owner was absentee a lot of times, so I was signing paychecks. I was doing payroll. I was doing what I thought was everything to run a company.
Mm.
Then I started my own. I'm like, oh, so when I left my last job, I gave up a salary, I gave up a company vehicle. My wife was on mat leave at the time. We just bought a new house. So it was tight for a lot of years. I'm like, well, how do I run a company? Well, you hire a bookkeeper day one. And my bookkeeper was 10 hours a month, but it was 10 hours of doing something efficiently that I could focus my time on what I love to do. And I worked for 2 hours, I could pay my bookkeeper for 10.
Right.
So just kind of learning the skill sets, but learning about, the background of what it takes to run a company, cash flow and how to manage cash flow is a, critical consideration. Because I swore that I would never, ever miss payroll for my staff, no matter, even if I couldn't eat. My
Right.
team needs to be paid for what they do.
Yep.
So, but learning that business side, I took a few business courses. My dad was self-employed as a kid. So I thought I knew all these things because it was always all around me. I didn't. I don't know
Right.
that I still do. But we turned a corner, in '08, in the crash, we turned a corner because that was our biggest year ever.
Oh,
And I haven't looked back since.
yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that was it your dad that was self-employed?
Yeah.
You said? Yeah, so I grew up as well with my dad. He owned a custodial business called Ship Shape Cleaning is what it was
Okay.
called. And I actually remember it was my first job working with my dad and we cleaned 8 different libraries. So we cleaned public libraries. And it's so funny how, when I think back to that, there was a time when I thought that that wouldn't influence me. But that time with my dad, and it was evenings when these places were closed, it was just me and dad.
Exactly.
And he would talk about the business in a fun way. Like it was at the time, I'm just like, I'm spending quality time with my dad. But I learned so much from that. And I also grew up with an appreciation for people who run their own business because nobody was there to applaud him. Nobody was there to say, man, you're doing a good job. Keep going. The places are empty, right?
Yeah. The
And
best comments are no comments because it was already done.
yep, that's it. That means that they're doing their job. Definitely a shout out to my own dad for kind of instilling that entrepreneurial mindset seed for me, even though I fought it for a really long time. I was like, I'm not an entrepreneur. The universe had different plans. Here we are.
My dad could never understand how I could make a living being a designer if I wasn't doing construction.
Right.
To the to the day he passed, he's like, I don't know why would people spend that kind of money? I could do it for cheaper. I'm an engineer. Yeah, you could. It's
You
not going to
could,
look
but you
like it
don't.
looks like when we're done.
Yep. And that's the thing too. So with like so many people have no idea the cost of these projects. And me included. So when I discovered landscape architecture and landscape design, I was 26 and I wasn't even aware of the small companies with a pickup truck and a lawnmower that were cutting people's lawns. It didn't even occur to me that that was something people were already doing and getting paid for at that level in landscaping because I grew up in the country where you just look after your property. It's just what you do. And then living in the city, I didn't notice all these trucks until I signed up for a landscape design course at Fanshawe College. I'm like, holy smokes, this industry is massive. So I want a piece of this.
And growing exponentially every year now.
Yep. And me too. Like this is sixth, that's a hard word to say, 6th year in business. And every year it's just made a huge jump from the previous year. So I'm excited to see what my next 40 years looks like. I got a few years to catch up to you, Paul. So I talked about a little bit about my dad. We were talking about your dad. Something else I like talking about on the show is definitely mentorship. I'm a strong believer that none of us end up where we end up without help. And you mentioned a couple of people. So you mentioned Larry Wester from the University of Guelph and Larry Porter as a landscape architect in Wyerton. Can you give us a little lowdown on Larry Wester?
So he was our prof there at university. Again, one of those guys that kind of took me under his wing. He was from Oklahoma, but kind of more identified as a Texan. And he had a couple of great phrases that I still use with my team. And the biggest one was, "If it don't look right, it ain't." And it would just be in a drawing. You'd look at it as a perspective, right? Well, it doesn't. It don't look right. Well, probably ain't.
I
Um,
love that.
but I was always terrified to present in front of people. I kind of wanted to be in the back row with the lights off. No one see me. Couldn't stand up and present a drawing. Wouldn't want to do a speech or a lecture or be on a podcast.
And look
And
at you
he took
now.
me into his office and closed the door one day. And by then we were pretty good. I'd been to his house, become pretty good friends. And he said, "If you're standing at the front of the room, it's because you're the expert on the subject. And as long as you know what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, and you're telling the truth, why would you ever be nervous about that?" And that was just like a light switch went off. I'm like, and so thinking back on that, like that's what made me turn the corner. And if I do a lecture now and write out my lines and write it as a speech, I tremor, I stutter, I shake. But I throw 7 or 8 pictures up and a couple of bullet points. I'm like, no, this is me. This is the raw me. This is what I do, and I love this job, and this is why. Um, I don't care how many people are in the room anymore. It doesn't bother me. I
Yeah.
try and make eye contact with them. I don't imagine them being naked because a lot of my colleagues, I would never want to see that. So,
Right? I've
you know,
never understood that. They say, imagine your audience is naked. Why? Why would I do that to myself? No,
exactly. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So,
do it.
so he was instrumental there, and we became good friends. I spent a lot of time in his office just hanging out because he knew that I traveled fairly extensively in the States. Had a minor in American history, so we had a lot to talk about American, older American history. And then when I started my path towards getting my license, I had to have an advisor to do my exams and then do my professional development period to get my designation as an LA. And I was living in the States. I was working in Memphis, and then I was also working in Washington, D.C., but I had to have an advisor. I didn't know any landscape architects other than Larry Porter out of Wyerton. Sole proprietor. Wyerton is a town now. Oh gosh, maybe it's grown to 3,000 people at this point.
Mm.
But he was the one landscape architect in a, kind of a 3-hour radius of where I grew up. And, he found the time to talk to me about what I needed to do. And I did a lot of call-ins from Tennessee and Washington to him, like, to do my reports and talk about what's going on. And he always found the time. And he retired not long ago. And so, he refers clients over to us now, which is, like to me, that's the greatest sign of respect that he now knows that I've learned enough from him and learned enough that he trusts, my name to give to clients. So
Right.
but yeah, he was that guiding light when I didn't have other mentors. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know anybody when I moved to the United States. I just moved there because we were in a big recession in Ontario. I'm like, okay, I got to work.
Yeah. Wow. It's that is quite a feeling, the whole full circle, right? That's so cool. I've been blessed again to experience that a couple times in my life, one of them being at Fanshawe College as a student, and now I'm an instructor in the course that I took. Like it's still crazy to me when I really think about it. Or even just earlier this week, one of my mentors, Lexi Dearborn, she called me up and right away, I answer the phone. I'm like, I know, I haven't finished my CLD application yet. I know. And she's like, I'm actually calling you for advice. I'm not calling you to harass you. I'm calling you because I have a question for you. I was like, oh, right. It was just I was expecting her to be cracking the whip as my mentor, as she usually does. And then at the end of the call, she was like, yeah, so CLD application. Okay, bye.
By the way,
So too funny. Love her. Shout out to Lexi. So you guys do design, but also project management and consulting. So do you work with a number of, like, I know you mentioned that you do designs for contractors, but then are you guys on the ground managing the jobs?
some.
Yep.
So we have some projects that we project manage, like we'll tender them out and then we project manage, and carry them through for construction. More typically, we're doing a lot of seniors' homes in the last number of years. So running those projects through. And the contractors that are on the list to build those are the contractors, all of them we design for or collaborate with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a couple of pet clients, we call them. One job, we've been on it for a residential project. We've been on it for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens between the curb and the house and even into the house, it goes through us. The client says it's our garden and we just manage it for them and they get to look at beauty every day.
Nice.
So we don't do many of those because we're small and purposefully I want to keep the company small. And I've run big companies and it just, you start churning numbers. We're not about churning numbers, but we get clients that ask and like they know us, they trust us, and we have a lot of clients we've done 2, 3, 5, 10 projects for and worked for. couple families who are working for 3 generations of the same family.
That's amazing.
So for them, it's like, what do you need? And of course, we're going to say yes because we love that. Almost like, they're part of the family. Of
Yeah.
course, we're going to make sure it happens.
Yeah, and you can't do that as a big company,
Yeah,
right? I know just over the years, I've heard too, there's all these trainings and there's all these speakers that come to events and they're about, growth and, hiring X number of employees and the first million milestone and then three and then 10 and 20 and just to me as crazy numbers for right now, for where I'm at. But I've never, and I still don't really have a big plan of becoming even a 20 employee company. I imagine I'm going to be somebody who's keeps it tight, like 5-ish maybe employees, but then we're dealing with the same sort of people and the same clients, and we're building those connections, right, with each other, but also our clients and the contractors. Like, I love this aspect of the business to business side of things, where, and I'm sure you like designing for the same contractors year after year after year. That's family. Like you build these relationships that they're not a come and go kind of relationship.
exactly. The one contractor, he was one of my first clients, I'll come up on 22 years ago. And he and I have traveled most of North America together. We're great friends. And he's stepped back from the company, and his son now, more or less runs the company. So I working with him, bit of mentoring there, but he's been listening to my spiel since he's been 9 years old.
Oh my god.
So he's like, "I know what you're gonna say," and he's like,
Yeah.
and good, bad, or indifferent. So it's fantastic, and we don't talk about money. Just they asked me to come. There's a project. We do the design. Our team draws it. They present it. I present it. Somewhere down the line, I send them a bill, and then somewhere down the line, they pay me. We never talk about money. We don't have to because
Right.
there's such inherent trust, and I use them as the gold standard for quality of bills. So every other company that knows us and works with us know that here's what they're going to expect because they've seen their work.
Yeah, love that. So for people who are watching the podcast, because I know a lot of people listen to the podcast, but you can actually watch this on Spotify and eventually YouTube. We're trying to start a YouTube channel, but me and technology, it's a journey. So stay tuned. We're coming to YouTube. But for those who are watching, you have an amazing backdrop behind you. And I understand that this is a dry laid stone project, one of your favorites. Can we talk about this? Because it is stunning.
Sure. So yeah, it's a dry stack stone. We call it the stable. It's at that same contractor I just talked about, who really is family now. It's at his yard, and I fell in love with dry stack stone working in the southern U.S. and so did a lot of dry stack walls. They're located in Hanover, Ontario, so on top of the Niagara Escarpment. So lots of beautiful limestone under. We were driving around looking for stone for projects so we could do something unique. And we kept coming across, it was actually probably a milk house, like an old ruins. And we got lost for a couple of days up in the Muskoka area, Peterborough, Buckhorn. Kept coming across this building. I'm like, we should build one of those.
Huh.
So we did. And it's not far from this building on site. Like, oh, that's interesting. It's a cool sculpture. Let's build a building. And so we built this building, and everyone's like, "What's it for?" Like, it was like the honest answer: we didn't know. We had no purpose for this. It just had to be done. So we started it, and worked with a dry stone waller here in Canada, Dean McClellan. Now, he's a master waller and one of very few in North America trained through the Dry Stone Walling Association of Great Britain.
Yeah, I think we've had him on the show.
Yeah. So
Incredible
just
man.
talented artist. And so, Dean worked away at this project. I designed it, the building, what we wanted, and then Dean worked away at it. And then we're like, we can do more with this. So we turned it into a festival and did it as a dry stone walling festival and trained 72 people in level 1 and 2 of dry stone walling.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we brought 7 wallers over from Great Britain, some of the biggest hearted people I've ever met. Fed them a lot of beer
Nice.
that week. Is like, there's unlimited beer, and it was a good thing. But they sang the whole time they built, and then one of them did that's a dry stone arch, so there's no mortar in that arch in there.
Gosh.
And so they worked away for a week, and then the last day of the festival on the Sunday, we craned the roof on. It was a timber frame, and we pre-built that and craned it up and on. And it was put together. Then people go, "What's this for?" I'm like, "Still don't know." And people started saying, "Well, can we take our wedding photos there?" Okay. And then next thing you know, my colleague, who a brilliant entrepreneur, has built a small empire in Hanover and multiple different divisions. That is a fully licensed wedding facility now, and
Oh
they're
my god.
There's a commercial kitchen. So in the summertime, that the foreground courtyard is kind of the wedding. That's the backdrop. They've got a big pavilion tent back behind, but there's events there. And you go inside that, it's like being in a bread oven. There's a fireplace in there. Bar is usually set up in there, but it's like walking back in time.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get a building permit for it because no one understands the engineering and the rules and regs of it. We have letters of accolades from every municipal council and mayor in the region. And it's like, and some of them have said, if there's ever a bomb, I know where I want to be. If the
Okay.
walls are 2.5 feet thick.
Wow. Holy
So
smokes.
that is, so there's some niches in the wall there. And the niches, each waller put a niche in the wall for their favorite beverage. So it's shaped accordingly, but the niches are the right size that, they could put some of my ashes in there when the world's done with me.
Wow, that's the plan, eh?
Part of them.
Part of them. Yeah. Uh, that it's just so cool. The phrase "if you build it, they will come" comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
You knew that you just had to do this thing, and we don't know what the purpose of the building is, but it kind of revealed itself.
And we've got a very, very talented, and I say we because I'm not close to the contractor. He has his own company, I have mine, but it's everything we do is a we. So he has a great event manager there who's started to take it to the next level for what people can do there, and we're always building on that site. So every year when people come for weddings, there's something new for them. They walk the grounds. There's 30 acres there of show
Oh,
gardens and display gardens, and it's
wow.
like we've got to show them something new. And if people are there, families are getting their pictures taken. What do the guests do? Well, the guests stroll the grounds, right? And kind of, so to me, it's a laboratory, but why not let them see something beautiful instead of having to hang out in a parking lot waiting for the wedding reception to happen?
Yeah, yeah, this is gardens. Yeah,
Yeah.
way better. I love too how, you turned it into a festival. So it wasn't just like, "Here's a project we're gonna do." It's a passion project, and then that passion became contagious, and you just said, "We're gonna do this thing, and we're gonna bring all these people together and do this awesome thing together," right? I also really like the free beer. So you let me know the next time I also accept beer as payment.
So you
I
see
can't drive
signs up
while stoned,
free
but
free beer tomorrow.
free beer tomorrow.
And when you show
Awesome.
up tomorrow, the sign will still be up.
Yeah, that's too funny. That sounds good to me. So speaking of beer, we are interviewing first thing bright and early, so we are not partaking in beer this morning. But on your questionnaire, you said you're a Jack Daniels guy.
Yes.
Yep. So is that
Abs-
did you work your way up to Jack Daniels, or has that always been like the family thing and you grew up with it and that
don't know that I go as far as to say I'm grown up,
yeah,
but
that's maybe the wrong way of saying it.
it's always yeah, it's always been there. So Jack Daniels and coffee is my go-to in the winter. I've always called it Southern coffee,
And
but
coffee.
I had friends that worked at the distillery when I worked in Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
And it's funny, and I just did a lecture at Fanshawe not long ago for the students, and they, basically the instructor said, tell the students what inspires you and talk about a cool project. And as much as I love the beverage. I was in Lynchburg at the distillery 2 weeks ago. I go at least once a year, if not 5 times if I could, because the whole world goes through Lynchburg. But their motto is every day we make it, we'll make it the best we can.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter what it is. That is a motto to take to design, to construction, to Nike shoes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's a very small town. It is still a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And if you shake somebody's hand, you know it's going to happen. So it's a brand. It's a beverage, but it's more of a it's kind of one of those. One of those steadfast things that I know doesn't change.
Right. I like that. We're gonna make every day the
Every
best it
day
can
we
be.
make it. Every day we make it. We make it the best we can.
We make it the best we can. I love that. That applies to life too.
Yep.
I have a similar sort of thing, just like a no regrets. Just show up the best you can, do the best you can with what you have and where you're at. Right. It's one of the four
Exactly.
agreements. Great book for anybody who's looking for a little something. One of the books that you mentioned was The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. So I have a copy here because it's been brought up a couple times on the podcast and I haven't started it yet. But can you talk about how this book has impacted you or what was your takeaways from it?
Well, it's funny because my wife read it first
Yep.
and badgered me for a long time to read it. And I'm like, she told me about the principle behind it. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't need
that
to read
same
a book. I
colleague,
got it.
yep, that same colleague, his wife gave it to him. He read it begrudgingly, but it kind of kept coming around. So finally I read it, but we had a lot of family stuff going on in the background that was stressing me out,
Yeah.
causing me a lot of anguish, a lot of grief. And I'm like, I can't change other people. So it was like, let them fail, let them, you hate to see some struggle, but you're like, you know what? I can't help you stop struggling. I can support you,
Yeah.
but I can't change your mind that you're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those like, let them, and then, and then the other side of that is let me, let me understand I can't do this, but let me guide myself so I don't stress so much about other influences. And it was that I actually saw a sleep doctor because I don't sleep. I never slept a lot, but now I wasn't sleeping at all.
Mm.
That doesn't help creativity when you don't sleep.
No.
Has a crippling effect when you don't sleep. So between all those things, I'm like, I need to make a change here because this is not good for me. Therefore, it's
Mhm.
not good for my family. It's not good for my clients. So I read that book. I saw a sleep doctor, and she's like, write out a list of your grievances.
Hmm.
Don't share it with the world, but you could, and then write out a list of what you can do about it. it's not just writing the list. Is what can you do to change these things? It came down to I've got to change my attitude and my outlook myself. So
Hmm.
let them fail, but be supportive when they fail. Let them do what they're gonna do, but then also, let it go.
Yeah. And that's hard for, I would say creatives. Generally, we are caring, compassionate, empathetic, and it's really hard for us to step back and not help, right? It's really hard. But sometimes that's what we have to do is we can say, "Hey, I'm here for you if you need me, but I'm not going to let you take me down with you."
Exactly.
So, and
And
that's really hard.
and I'm at the stage in my career, and I mean, I try whenever I can. I volunteer for a lot of different associations, have for a long time. I try and give back. And it's one of those I need energy to be able to do that, but I want to give back where it's going to make a positive difference. Burn energy trying to change somebody's mind because I can't.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, I like that. There was something on the back here. What was it? This is right from the back of the book. It says, by letting other people live their lives, you finally get to live yours. Right. And it's so weird how I know something that I really struggle with is these two really intense emotions of shame and guilt, right? Especially with anything that might feel selfish. Right. So even just reading that, let people live their life so that you can live yours. My initial instinct is like, well, I can't just live my life. That's selfish. Like, that's my first instinct that I'm currently working through. Right. And it's not selfish. It's self care. You have to put your own mask on first in the airplane. Right. I don't know how many times I've heard that phrase. I've had a therapist tell me that phrase, and that's what keeps reminding me put your own mask on first.
Exactly. You can't help other people if you don't help yourself.
And that's it. So yeah, no Jack Daniels today, but next time we'll get together
Later.
later. Yeah, we'll do that. How are we doing for time? Oh yeah, we're good. I wanted to talk to you about these 4 projects that you did with Highway of Heroes. That is such an incredible project. I know here in London, Ontario, right? Ron Cowdice, he was a part of and helped with the Veterans Memorial. So can we talk about your connection with Highway of Heroes?
Yeah. So a Highway of Heroes started when I was president of Landscape Ontario, and Mark Cullen came into the office. I knew Mark casually at the time. He and Tony DiGiovanni. Tony's a big brother to me. He calls me little brother. I call him big brother. We've traveled the globe together because of my presidency and my time there. But Mark came in with this idea, and I was president, or maybe it was going to be incoming president. I can't recall, but I'm like, what? Yes. Well, I'm thinking yes. Whatever you need, yes, because it was a veterans project, and we do a lot of veterans work, and we don't charge for veterans work. Never have, never will. But I'm like, what can we do to help? And so board wrote a check for 10 grand, I think at the time, just to kind of a bit of seed money to get Highway of Heroes up and going. And then, some projects came through. So we did a couple different designs over the years to help out. And then, the latest now that they're in Trees for Life, and Highway of Heroes is just such a tremendous success. And I think really brought veterans back into the foreground with the average Canadian who doesn't understand what our veterans have done for us to allow you and I to sit here today and do what we do and love what we
Mhm.
do every day. Right? We
Right.
don't have to think about security and safety and everything else. You watch the news, we probably should a little more. But so since then, anytime there's a veterans project, Mark Cullen and I have become very, very close. I love the man dearly. He is one of my, you know, people on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And I know that if I call Mark and talk to him about something, it'll happen. Like one of those, shake his hand and it will happen. And I've got a new project actually that is coming in the door for a healthcare center, and I'm going to call Mark actually later today about it because it's a perfect fit
Yep.
for trees for life. But so they asked me to. Last year was the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I'm like, "What do you need?"
Yep.
plain and simple. What do you need? So we designed 4 different gardens for them across Canada, mostly using the roundel logo of the Air Force as the guiding light for what the projects could be. But so we got to, we only went to 2 of them. Sydney, I was there for the opening. Barrie, I was there for the opening. I couldn't make Charlottetown because of family commitments, and then we had one out in Manitoba.
Wow.
Just what an honor, and that was my way of saying, that I promised my mom as a kid because she made me promise I'd never join. So therefore, what can I do to say thank you?
Yeah.
And that's all it is from us. It's a thank you for letting us be who we are.
Yeah. It's powerful. It really is. I can't talk too much about it because I'm an emotional person, but I also feel you and I appreciate all that you're doing for that. You actually, like, this blows my mind that you worked on the Centennial Garden at Vimy Ridge,
Yeah,
like in France, like in the France.
in France. Yeah. So that was a funny set of circumstances as well. So I got sent there as a guest for the opening. Again, I was president of LO at the time. And so I got sent there as a dignitary, as a guest for the grand opening, and didn't know anybody there at the time, and was in the crowd, and they ran into some technical issues with the trees and the planting. And I don't know if anyone knows northern France, and I didn't at the time either, but northern France is very, very heavy hard pan clay soil. Throw in a million explosives on top of that to churn that soil and clay and chalk into a morass of hard pan concrete, then try and plant things in it and let them grow. Was very challenging. So they were struggling with the trees, and I honestly don't know how this happened, but somebody in the background said, I know a guy in the crowd that knows something about trees. And I got pulled aside by Monty McDonald, who he's the brainchild behind it. And he and I become great, great friends. And we're still doing Vimy Oak legacy work because of him, and growing and planting Vimy Oaks Canada wide still. But I'd worked in Tennessee in hard pan clay. I know what it's like to try and plant a tree in clay. I knew trees. And so I'm like, let me help. And so in the background, the day before or the day after the grand opening, there I was in, my dress pants and dress shoes in knee deep hard pan muck and clay on Vimy Ridge in France. My great uncle's buried 5 miles behind the lines. None of my family had ever been to his gravesite. So this is 100 years later.
Oh my gosh.
And there I am digging in that soil that he bled out on. And he didn't die at the battle. He died after, but he was there through and after. And I'm like, holy shit, this was a life changing moment. And so I'm holding artillery shrapnel in my hand. I'm holding scraps of metal in my hand, fused bits of clay, and I'm getting to try and make sure these trees are the next generation to showcase, Canada's commitment. So there was a lot of tears that day in the background. But and then so now I've helped write the maintenance manual on how to keep those trees alive. I'm
Wow.
going back next spring for 110th anniversary of the battle to maybe do a bit of pruning there. I'm taking my big brother with me because he's never been.
Just a little bit of pruning at Vimy Ridge.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So,
Like,
but that's thanks to people like Tony DiGiovanni, Mark Cullen. Kind of Tony tapped me on the shoulder and it's like, I think you should be on the board at LO. I'm like, why? I'm a standalone designer in this little
yeah.
company in Guelph. What have I got to offer?
Sounds like a
So
little bit of imposter syndrome there, Paul.
maybe.
Still working through that.
Yeah, well, as I said, they keep telling me when you grow up, and I'm like, I don't intend to,
Yeah. Love
but
it.
I don't think I need to. And it's funny because Mark Cohen and I were talking one day, and I think I said something to that effect to him. And he's like, "Well, I don't want to grow up either. Why do we have to?"
Let's
And
not.
so he and I share books back and forth all the time now, and it's mostly history and different things. But yeah, it's one of those. It's just I found a lifelong group of friends through these different weird circumstances. When they call me for advice, I'm like I'm shocked when they call me for advice. But I
Yeah.
call them like I'm calling you for guidance.
That's
Um,
powerful stuff.
yeah, but couldn't. That's one of those. If I never did another project and never put my hands in the dirt again, I'm good. I don't think that could ever be topped.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
It's funny, so on today's Thursday, so I usually post or at the time that we're recording, it's Thursday, and I always post a Thursday thought video, so that's gonna be posted later today. But actually what's on my mind is this idea of funeral photos. Have you heard this concept before? So when someone dies and there's a funeral, all those photos go up, right? Showing the life of them. But we create the memories and we create those funeral photos while we're alive. And it's
Right.
just the thought of you in this, sorry, I'm like a snobbering mess and I don't have Kleenex near me. You just had to go and get me all emotional, Paul. But like that memory, like of being in that soil, right? Like that is it's a funeral photo.
I mean, sitting beside my desk, I mean, I've got it in a jar. Those are leaves from those trees that we planted in Vimy Ridge. And they're that far away from me every single day. I have a picture of Monty and I there with, with one of the trees. And it's just like, you kind of get to a moment of, am I doing the right thing?
Right.
I just got to turn my head and it's like it's right there. Yep. Somewhere along the line, we've done something right.
I asked guests, what's a big hurdle or challenge that they've faced. And what you wrote, actually, I'm just going to read it verbatim because it connected with me personally too, is you said keeping up with fast turnarounds for clients during construction season while still maintaining quality and creativity on all projects. And this idea of like fast turnaround is something too that it came to a head for me last year in my business because the amount of work and the amount of time that I had was not properly balanced. So can you talk about this? Like, how do you guys do it? Or how are you trying to do it?
Sometimes it's sheer grit, I would say, but because we design for so many contractors, and I mean, they have a construction season, they have people to feed. So we try and ensure from the day that a contractor sends a job to us till the concept client gets first concept to start reviewing is 2 weeks. We often will have 40 projects at a time rolling along, and there are three of us in studio. And I'm pretty adamant, like three of us is my magic number. We are potentially going to four this year, which I am throwing the anchor behind me and dragging it as hard as I can not to, but
Yeah.
it's based on volume. But they need these drawings in a timely manner
Yeah.
to do their job, in a timely manner. Because first drawing going out is not drawing that's getting built from. But that's the first, that's a working concept to scale with a lot of detail, but there's still revisions to go through. There's still pricing to go through. There's still timing and materials to order. So there's a lot of lost time between drawing and breaking ground. So um, I draw really, really fast. Plain and simple. I've done it for so long. When I'm in a client meeting, I have a staff member, team member with me, and they're taking notes about everything we talk about. So I have a
Hmm.
very fluid, it's a conversation like we're having. In the
Yeah.
background, there's somebody who's described, okay, they talked about hot tubs, they talked about this, they talked about that. So by the time we're drawing it, I'm just basically, I'm reiterating I'm my own, CAD monkey. I'm my own pencil monkey. I'm drawing what I've already designed in my head, and then we put it to paper. But getting it back out the door is where my team is excels at it, and I've just trained them to be very, very fast at how we draw. I give them the concepts in detail, like in to scale, and
Yep.
then they turn the graphics around to it to get it back out.
Hmm.
So, but it's, we're really right now I'm the busiest I've ever been in my career in this company. We've just hired a new staff member who is number three. We've got a winter intern here. We're trying to convince her to stay on till spring at least, maybe longer.
Hmm.
And she can hear me even over my shoulder somewhere. So I hope she's listening. But yeah, it's just one of those like keeping up. That's the stress that I am going to let the team that got us to where we are. I talked earlier about, the contractors, we're a team. It's a round table.
Yep.
Without them, we are nothing.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not letting that team down. So do I work longer hours when it's really busy? Yep. Do I worry about that? Does it bother me? I don't run a stopwatch or run a clock on it. Doesn't matter. It's like they need me, right?
Yeah.
I need them, they need me. So we get it done. My team works 8 to 4, 8 to 2 on Fridays because they have family commitments and other things. And that's my commitment to them. That's your time. You need to be here. You need to focus when you're here. And we run with scissors a lot of the times.
I hope you hold them properly, holding the
Of
blade.
course. Of
Of
course.
course. Always. Yes. I know that's something too. I really strive for that 2 weeks, right? 2 week turnaround. And last year, I actually lost two clients, which I think in the 6 years I've been doing this, I'd lost one client because I took too long. But last year to have two really, really hurt. It's like, man, I really let these people down. So this is where I'm currently at in my business is trying to figure out a better an SOP, systems, processes, because it's easier said than done. I'm not sure if it's my scheduling. Like I need to sit down and schedule, when I do the site visit, then 2 weeks in my calendar. Then I put, the design is due, but then I have to remember to actually do that in the calendar. Right. So it's just one of these things that right now it's very timely for me trying to
Yep.
figure out a better system.
Well, I'll take a picture and send it to you because I have a job board on the wall.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it is, I've been using that for 40 years, almost 30 years for sure.
I would love to see your
Because I
job board.
used it in the southern US and adapted it to make it make sense for me, but it helps me know where every job is at, even if I'm not working on it, but where every job is at and when it's due and what, where we're at. And that is because I run in and out, I'm on the road all the time. My team
Yeah.
sees me when they need me, but I try and stay out of their way. Without that, we would blow by deadlines daily.
Yep. Okay. That'd be great because I think right now I'm using like an Excel system, but because it's not visible to me every day, it's easy to forget about it. So I don't know if you can kind of see, I have a sticky note. There we go. You
Yeah.
can kind of see there's my fancy job board. I'm a sticky note fan, but it's not very efficient. So take you
The
up on that.
sticky notes are in front of me for the must do before I get up from this chair.
Yep.
But the job board is beside the door. So
Okay.
every time I come in or go out, and it's to my right, and so it's coded for me. It's coded for staff, so everybody knows what to do, when to do it, and why. But yeah, and it's a dry erase board because it changes sometimes by the minute.
Yep, I
Um,
imagine. So, okay. Well, we are at time. I'd ask you to share a joke, but you did warn me on your questionnaire that you don't have a joke appropriate to share on the air. So I'm not going to do that to you. But you can tell me later. It's probably a joke I'll appreciate.
just remind me the joke about the duck, and I will let you.
Okay, I will remind you about the joke about the duck. Paul, it has been amazing just spending this hour with you, getting to know you more, spreading a little bit more awareness about who you are and your company. I wish you all the best in everything, and I'm sure I'm going to see you around.
You as well, Heather. I know you're an inspiration to a lot of people out there now. I hear your name coming up all over the place, and yeah, I look forward to hopefully seeing you this fall out east with us at a conference there.
Sounds
And
amazing.
yeah, see you in the
Okay,
trenches this spring.
I will see you there. Cheers, Paul.
All right, cheers.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Hops and Hedges, hosted by me, Heather Gerard of My Landscape Artist. Now, before you go, here's a quick word from our sponsor, ext.tech. In today's fast-paced world, landscaping businesses need modern tools to keep up with constant change, and that's where EXT comes in. EXT is transforming how landscaping, snow removal, and construction companies manage their operations. Using streamlined client management, real-time financial insights, and a modern mobile app your team will actually enjoy using. And with flat-rate pricing, there are no surprises, just clarity and control. If you're ready to revolutionize and grow your landscaping business, visit ext.tech to learn more. For additional savings, use the code HOPS10 at checkout, or just tell them that Heather sent you.